All right, we are back this week. Happy holidays from the Hardwood Huddle. No technical difficulties with the videos this week, which is more excited.
Always a bonus.
Oh yeah, it's a Christmas miracle. My name is ready to tell you.
Molly. Molly.
And with me, as always, he is the supreme leader. He is the one and only. He is Master Vader. He is Mr. Bill Ingram. Bill, happy holidays, my friend.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa.
You're the most important one.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Festivus. We will now start with the airing of the grievances.
Exactly.
So that's just the way it is. So, Bill, we are now finishing up day 2 of the 2020-2021 NBA season, and I got to tell you, people are going to call me ridiculous. I know that we would rather have fans in the arena, but I'm digging it. I'm digging how they got the setup. They're hiding the weakness of no fans and showing that the games will go on.
Yeah, they will. And it is bizarre. It's crazy that we're on Christmas Eve as we're recording this, and we've only had a game. Maybe some teams haven't even played, but the NBA will persevere, aside from Houston, where there just seems to be one problem after another. When half your team is down for one reason or another, and you can't even field enough players to play, that's certainly indicative of the way things have gone for the Rockets of late. But hey, some teams came out of the gate looking good, and it's a great time for a lot of NBA fans don't even start watching till Christmas anyway. So this year they'll start watching at Christmas and see the beginning of the season.
Yeah, well, what's funny too, it's every team has gotten started except for the Houston Rockets.
Thunder, yeah.
I don't want to dive too deep into it because obviously there's just so much to unload there, and I think every angle of it was taken about from ESPN and Fox and everything. But I think it's fair that we can give try to give a different perspective. I want someone to call out, and it's gonna be me. I'm gonna call him out. But James Harden, my God, can we stop with the "woe is me" attitude? And everyone looks for something for me to be picked on. Everyone picks on me for this and that. I'm sitting there saying to myself, James, own it. Real leaders own responsibility when you screw up. That's the one thing that drives me crazy about this generation of NBA players. It's what this team is not giving me, what this player is not showing me any love. I need this to be successful. That's the attitude that drives me crazy from today's NBA player. And to be honest with you, this is why the Rockets are the way they are. And if your superstar does not believe in the system and your superstar doesn't believe in following the protocols, why should the rest of the team?
Well, and this you've touched on one of my pet peeves here. In the modern NBA, we call people superstars who are not. James Harden is a great scorer. He is. That doesn't make him a superstar. It does in the eyes of fans and the modern NBA world. But in terms of when I think superstar, I think Michael Jordan. I think Hakeem Olajuwon. I think LeBron. I think Steph Curry. I think Kevin Durant. These are not players who are going to point fingers when something doesn't go their way, and they just impose their will on things. James Harden, every single bit of criticism that he's receiving, he's brought on himself. And I say this as a lifelong, hey, here it is. They suck, and I still got my Rockets. I still represent the city where I grew up, whether they suck or whether they're good. And when they're good, I'll tell you they're good. When they suck, they suck. And I just don't think, and you know this, I've said this for years, I don't think a team built around James Harden can win a championship. Your leader has to take ownership. Your leader has to set the tone. Your leader has to be the first one there for training camp, not the last one. Your leader can't be in a strip club when your team is supposed to be in training camp. Your leader can't be out there potentially getting COVID and risking that for his teammates and blah, 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 blah. None of that shit is what a leader is. None of it.
Yeah.
James Harden is not a leader. He's a great scorer, and that is it. That is his epitaph on his gravestone. When the ghost of Christmas yet to come shows him, it says great scorer. It doesn't say champion. It doesn't say leader. It doesn't say superstar. And at this point, it's too late in his career for him to change, too. You know, no visitation of Christmas spirits is going to change James Harden, unfortunately. So, you know, that is what it is. As long as the crazy thing is, and Harden doesn't even understand this, is that if you really want to be traded, you shut the hell up and you go out there and you play well, and you remind teams what you bring to the table. Right now, all he's doing is reminding teams why you wouldn't want. That's why teams are going to be like, hey, we'll give you a couple of first-round picks for him because we don't know what we're getting in return. Yeah, the scoring, but look at all this other crap. Why would you bring that to the culture of your city? And that's why he's still a Rocket.
Yeah, and the thing is, no one's going to trade for him. I think this is almost as bad. What's worse, the Chris Webber situation from him leaving from Sacramento to go to Philadelphia, or this situation?
Well, you know, it's funny. One of my many friends from the NBA world texted me and asked me what I thought about the rumor of, you know, would I take Ben Simmons and a couple of first-round picks for James Harden? I said, I'd take the first-round picks. I mean, the culture, you can't have him on your team. He's destroyed the culture. He's bad for the team. He's bad for his teammates. And you do have some guys there in John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins who have a lot to prove and are ready to start proving it. I believe in DeMarcus Cousins' case. I'm sure in John Wall's case. I'd take anybody that wants to play, you know, but somebody who's doing all this stuff, it's addition by subtraction. I take whatever you can get.
What about the situation now with him and the team, knowing let's shift from James Harden over to the team where they can't even get 8 guys together to get on the court together. Like, I think if you would have opened it up in like on a classified section on like Craigslist 3 hours before game time, you might have gotten 8 guys who can play.
Couldn't you have gotten a bus down to Rio Grande or a flight?
Yeah, something. It could have been worked out.
Vipers, you could have had somebody call up 6 players from the G League or something.
Yeah.
But when you look at who was missing, though, there was no way they were going to win the game because you're talking about John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins among those who couldn't play. So just a bad situation all the way around.
Yeah, it's just an ugly situation. And the Oklahoma City Thunder was like, well, all right, we're here.
Sam Presti didn't want to play that game anyway because he doesn't want to win. He's trying to get this message across. We don't want to win yet.
Sam goes, all right, well, we're going to forfeit. Wait a minute, this is not your fault. I know, but we need the losses.
Right. Give the Rockets the win. We're good with it.
And meanwhile, Adam Silver's listening to that going, wait a minute. So they're messing up. Their guys getting fined, suspended. They're not going into COVID, quarantine. But you want to give them the win? Listen, he's sitting there going, listen, Adam, look at this draft board. I need every loss possible. Okay. That's such a weird team and a weird situation. What's going on? Let's talk about that for a second. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they were like, we are going to lose last season, and they end up in the 6th seed. I think it was the 6th seed in the NBA playoffs.
Quite good, surprisingly good. I'd say they were the surprise team of the year.
Yeah, and meanwhile, their owner is sitting there going, hey, everybody, this is great. This is great. I wish we were losing right now. Hey, everybody, this is great.
So now they've dealt Steven Adams. They've dealt, they just try to dismantle the team as much as they can. And even in preseason, they didn't look bad.
What's funny? What this reminds me of? If you remember the movie Major League.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they have that situation where the owner gives everybody the list of the players she wants. And the guy goes, this guy's dead. Then cross him off the list, shall we? That's what Sam Presti's doing to the general manager. Here's the players. Antoine Walker, he hasn't played in years. Well, get him. Let's get him.
But he'll help us achieve our goal.
Yeah, that's pretty much the truth. All right, so last show we did the Eastern Conference. Like that was really the big news that came out of yesterday was the Rockets, and I figured we address it and move forward with it. Last week we talked about the Western Conference. This week we're talking about the East, and I was trying to figure out why everyone's all of a sudden very down on the Miami Heat.
They lost the game. I mean,
yeah. Well, no, not only that, but it's like everyone before the game starts. And even during the game, everyone's just like, well, Orlando's going to win this game because of this with Miami. And I'm like, well, what happened with Miami? And I'm looking at their roster. I'm like, same roster as last year. They didn't really do any major. Yeah.
They weren't healthy in the playoffs. Goran's back. Goran looked great.
Yeah. I always think, isn't that the sort of the problem, though? The team that always is like the runner-up in the finals, they either stay put or they make drastic changes. And Pat Riley is going to ride this horse out, not thinking that the rest of the Eastern Conference has gotten better. But here's the problem. You have the Milwaukee Bucks, who I think after watching them, even though they lost last night against Boston, again, we're recording this. We're recording this on the 24th. Mm-hmm. But, when you watch that game against Boston, you feel like Milwaukee sort of cleaned up some of the chemistry issues they had last year. Middleton played very, very well. They don't have Bledsoe anymore. He's gone. I know there was a little bit of a tiff in the bubble with Middleton and Bledsoe. So that news came out late last week. So you look. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that's right. I love that. Yeah. Drew Holiday was fabulous. 20 games from now, we're going to talk about what a brilliant move that was. It's just one game so far against the other maybe best team in the East. This was maybe Eastern Conference Finals preview, and the Bucks lost by 1 point. So
it was a hell of a game.
It was.
Yeah, I really do think at the end of the day, Miami has to give a real sober look at the Eastern Conference and say, is this good enough? Because you have Milwaukee that solved their chemistry issues. You have Boston that's only going to get better, and they added Jeff Teague and Tristan Thompson.
That's the piece right there for Boston.
That's a key piece because they were so thin up front. Yep. Then you have Philadelphia, which is like a wild card because you don't know what they're going to be doing with Embiid and Simmons, and when Doc is the coach, and Tobias Harris, and what's going to happen with them. And then you had Brooklyn, who came out on opening night and just destroyed the Warriors, even though they were without Draymond, and they just seemed like they are still trying to mesh of what they really, really have as a team there.
Understandably. I mean, they haven't had a chance to get anything going, and Oubre looked lost. He's not going to be lost for long, and a lot of be a midseason, come into their own, sneak in and hurt somebody in the first round type team, I believe.
Yeah, and I think that you're 100% correct. And also, if you're Miami, there's a lot of teams that are better than you.
Yeah. And the ultimate factor too is you were in the NBA Finals last month, and when you're in the NBA Finals,
yeah,
or what was it 2 weeks ago? It seems like they were just ended, but you were just in the finals, which means even though you didn't win, you have the target on your backs. Every team, Orlando's going to give you their best game of the season. In the West, we saw it happen with the Clippers. Paul George, as we've often said, he's good. He will look like the Paul George who led the Indiana Pacers to prominence in the East 10 times this year. And the good news for the Clippers is he did it in the first game against the champs. The bad news is you've only got 9 left. But when you are in the NBA Finals, you're going to get the best game that your opponent plays all year. That's how it's going to be. And in the East, when several teams have gotten remarkably better, Miami can't afford to rest on their laurels at all.
Yeah. And you look at the Eastern Conference top 8 from last year. Obviously, I think maybe 6 or 7 of the teams will be back, maybe just in a different order. I think Milwaukee's back there, Boston's back there, Philly's back there. Obviously, Brooklyn is going to move up.
Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta's going to. I think I'll tell you what coach has their hands full and is going to really earn his money this year is be Nick Nurse. Getting that Toronto team back. You lose a lot of pieces like that. You lose half of that front. You lose that front line depth that helped you so much in the playoffs the last few years with Gasol and Ibaka.
Yep.
which leaves you Sock'em, and then you have to start raising some of these young kids up there. Toronto, if Toronto makes the playoffs, they're a lower level team, and
they're out in the first round.
And
as you mentioned, you've got a couple of teams that have improved so much. Somebody's going to fall out.
Yeah.
And Toronto, unless they make a deal soon for front court help, Toronto, I wouldn't want to be in their shoes right now.
Well, you know what's going to be a very interesting. Here's a story to watch throughout the whole year. Will be the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah.
The Indiana Pacers will be a very interesting story because you and I always call it loose parts. Over the years, when Nate McMillan was the head coach there, they acquired a lot of loose parts, and Nate was able to make it work, and they've been in the playoffs, not only in the playoffs, but successful in the playoffs. Yeah. So now you're going to have a whole new coaching system, a new coach, new system with the same spare parts. And I'm wondering if they beat the Knicks last night.
That's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bad with the Knicks going to opening night just saying, okay, so we're 0-1, right? We didn't even jump all. I know, we're 0-1. Okay.
The favor of the Pacers is that Sabonis has emerged as your best player. You have potentially a franchise player. Sabonis is fantastic. He'll take the load every night. The role that Victor Oladipo was supposed to play. Victor's not going to be that guy, but how good is he going to be? They have Miles Turner, who's a very solid starting center. They have talent at a lot of different positions, as you just said, and as we've talked about. Is it going to mesh? Are they going to be a cohesive unit, or are they just going to be a bunch of guys who show up to play pickup and win a lot of nights? And that's what remains to be seen.
Yeah, they're a wild card team to me in my eyes, and what they're going to be, what they're not going to be. And another wild card team is, again, we're going to see how good of a coaching job he can do, but that's going to also be down in Orlando. And Steve Clifford. Steve Clifford has done a great job with that Orlando team. They've been the 7th, 8th seed now for the last couple seasons. But now you had the same core group of guys and the same type of team now for the last couple of years. And if you're saying to me that the 7th, 8th seed is going to be the best this Orlando Magic team can do, then you might as well just go back to the drawing board and start over again, because what's your goal? What's your goal if you're Orlando? Because all these other teams in the Eastern Conference are better than you. They're just better than you, and you're stuck in that 7th, 8th spot. At one point, is it worth just saying, hey, we're going to lose for a couple more years and get higher draft picks and get a new crop of players in here and try to build a new nucleus? That's what Chicago's doing.
Especially when Orlando, you're not talking about a team that has a bunch of young players anymore, except for Markelle Fultz, potentially. He's certainly shown himself to be a much better player in Orlando than he was in the system in Philly. But when you're talking about Nikola Vucevic and Aaron Gordon and Terrence Ross, these are not young players anymore who are going to evolve together and become something. They are what they're going to become. So what's going to, when you talk about it, are they going to be better than the 7th or 8th seed? Well, what's going to make that happen? Who's going to take another step as a player to make that happen? Is it Markelle Fultz? Maybe, but really the Magic, it's time to you're either going to make a run or you're not. And the unit that they're putting on the floor right now is a good unit, but it's not a great unit. It's not a home court advantage unit. And when the top teams in the East got so much better and you stood the same,
yeah,
like Miami, that's who you are. So, yeah. Do you give it one more year? Do you make a big move to try to add another star piece, or do you do what Chicago's doing and
blow it up
and say, hey, where are we going to be 5-6 years from now?
And I'm looking at the Orlando Magic roster right now, and you still, obviously you have Nikola there. He's, all-star, re-signed with the team. Terrence Ross is still there. Jonathan Isaac. Fultz just signed a new deal with them. Aaron Gordon is still there. Evan Foreigner, James Ennis. Yeah, these are not. Michael Carter Williams is still there. Like, this is not exactly. You have a very mishmash, which is what Steve Clifford likes, by the way. Steve Clifford did a lot with that Charlotte Hornet team that had Al Jefferson, Jeremy Lin, Nick Batum. That team got Nick Batum a big deal.
Yeah,
and never lived up to it afterwards. And
right.
That's part of the problem. I really do think that's where what's the right way of saying this? Where you spend your money is key. And, this year Golden State has the highest payroll of 173 million.
Yeah.
And Brooklyn is 17 million below that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you and I honestly say that the Warriors are a championship level team without Klay Thompson?
Well, you got to remember that part of that 137 million is Klay Thompson sitting on the sideline.
Yeah.
If you took that away, it's a slightly different conversation. If he's healthy, yes, there's no question. I'll take the Warriors.
Yeah.
What is Kelly Oubre going to become? He can score 20 on a given night for a bad team. A lot of players can score 20 on a given night for a bad team. The Timberwolves have had quite a few guys who look great on a bad team, but they don't win. And now two of those guys are in Golden State, in Wiggins and in Oubre. You've got two of those guys who Wiggins never really put up great numbers. In fact, he's the only player to play more than 30 minutes in a game without recording a single statistic of any kind. Not a foul, not a turnover. Invisible. So are these guys who are going to suddenly, and hey, full credit to Steve Kerr and his staff and Steph Curry as a leader. They have great pieces in place. It's a winning culture there, but can you bring losing players from a losing culture into a winning culture and have them become winners? Sometimes you can, but that's the question for the Warriors right now.
Well, here's their salary breakdown. If you want to hear something that's a little scary, this is scary. Steph's making 43 this year, which I never thought I would ever say about an NBA player's salary. Yes, but he's making 43 this year. Klay is sitting at home counting his money in rehab at 35. Yeah. Andrew Wiggins, this is the number that sort of blows my mind, is 29.5. My God. And Draymond is at 22.2. Next year is the last year of Steph's contract, 45.7. He's going to try and start working his way into a new deal. There's no player option. There's no team option. It's just next year's the last year of his contract.
Yeah.
And also, Steph Curry's contract includes a trade kicker, according to Marcus Thompson. And Draymond Green, he gets 25% of his annual salary on July 1st and another 25% on October 1st, according to Jeff Siegel. So, and there's little notes there about the rest of the contracts. But after Draymond, Kelly Oubre makes 14. Then rookie James Wiseman is 8. Kevin Looney at 4. The salary is a little, you're top heavy.
Yeah,
you're very top heavy, and that's the number one team in the league. The New York. If I would have told you that the New York Knicks were number 30 in the league in salary, would you believe me?
Nobody wants their money, so
yeah, we're going to give you $35 million to play here. Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, I'll take the minimum at any other team besides Houston.
and if you want one that's just as great as the Warriors salary, you're going to get a lot of this. Their top salary, Julius Randle at 18.9.
Yeah, hey, Randle. They were trying to land somebody that had a lot of potential, and he does. You just haven't put pieces around him. I mean, I think Julius Randle could be a very, very good player on a winning team if it wasn't the Knicks.
Yeah. RJ Barrett's next at 8. Like, these are actually reasonably set salaries. By the way, the Knicks are still paying Jakeem Noah at 6'4" for the next 2 years.
Are they the only ones still paying him? Joaquin?
No, I have a strange feeling that the Chicago Bulls are somehow still paying him.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Or they're paying for him. One or the other.
Joakim Noah is the perfect example of a player who was great in one particular mix of players. That Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler, Chicago Bulls team. He was Taj Gibson. He was exactly what they needed. It doesn't function anywhere else.
Well, you're going to love this note about the Julius Randle contract. You ready? Only $4 million guaranteed in 21-22. Hoops Hype's learned that all this information is coming from hoopshype.com. His contract became guaranteed, if not waived, by June 28th, 2021. So, you know what the Knicks are going to be doing on June 28th, 2021. Here's your walking paper, Julius. Here's your $4 million check. We are not responsible for you for the rest of your life. Goodbye.
Right.
Yeah. No money guaranteed for Austin Rivers' contract. His 21-22 becomes fully guaranteed if not waived 7 days after the end of the 21-22 moratorium period. So there's all these little fun tidbits about the contracts, the language that's written in there now for all the teams. And by the way, for those Oklahoma City Thunder fans who are looking forward to losing, you're second to last in salary at 96. Next year, the Knicks are at 36.8. And Oklahoma City will be at 45.9 next year. So very interesting numbers at the bottom of the NBA salary cap. I just think, and by the way, you know how some of these sites are. They go 4 years down the road. For the 23-24 season, right now, the Knicks have no money guaranteed to anybody.
And no draft picks either, right?
Yeah. And meanwhile, it says here the amount of draft picks by the 23-24 season, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now up to 24 draft picks.
Yeah. I understand the strategy, but gosh.
Well, I'm glad you do, because I sure as hell don't.
Well, you're hoping that you're going to have one of these amazing drafts like we saw in the star-laden drafts of the 90s where you turned out all these amazing rosters, and even the 80s you had some just incredible drafts, and you're hoping you're going to have 5 picks in the top 10 in a league-changing draft. The problem is, and we've talked about this extensively, and Larry Brown agreed with us and gave some additional insight a while back, I think last summer when he was on the show. We don't have those drafts anymore because what you have now is a lot of young players. The last time a senior was drafted in the NBA draft was 2006. That's your stat.
Yep. Yeah, that's my stat. The top 5 pick 2006
so
was number 5.
What you have is a whole bunch of picks, high picks probably, for a bunch of players, and it's almost you just are gambling, hoping that you're going to pick somebody who 5 years later is going to be a star. If it's the 90s and I have all those first round picks, I'm good. Like I'm confident. But in the 2020s with that many picks, I mean, okay, all right. Let's see what happens. The other thing is you could deal them for it gives you some flexibility. This is what Daryl Morey was always doing. He was always stockpiling picks so that he could move them for assets when, jump on a situation like James Harden where a team just really needs to move somebody and they'll do something crazy to do it. And you have those assets to use and trade. So it's flexibility. That's what he's doing, Sam Presti.
Yeah, I'm glad he knows what he's doing.
We'll see if it works. I don't know if it'll work, but that's what he's doing.
I'm glad somebody knows what he's doing because I'm not sure if he knows what he's doing. I think he's waking up and going, yeah, fool you. By the way, if anyone wants to know what it's going to look like on the draft lottery, I can show you a picture. I will be glad to show it to everybody right. Oh, where'd you go? Ah.
Oh, yeah. That's that one with all.
Yeah, I was going to show that wonderful picture. There it is. There it is. That's what the draft lottery is going to look like, ladies and gentlemen. And what's awesome is look right here. There's Patrick Ewing with the Knicks.
Right.
That's great.
That's pretty much what it's going to be.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the way it should be. I think great moments like that need to be documented. Anyways, with that being said,
one other thing at least that we have to talk about. Well, 2 things from just the first couple of nights of action, and one is the way the Utah Jazz handled Portland. And when I say
God,
it was not close.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing I love about this, if you were watching preseason, such as it was, Mike Conley looks very comfortable in Utah in that lineup now, and that was something we saw maybe a few times last year, but it was like maybe they need to cash him in. But to their credit, they sat on him and kept him, and he looked really good in preseason, and he looked fantastic last night in their first game. And the entire squad, obviously, they had injuries in the playoffs, but now that everybody's healthy, Utah. Hey, we can talk about Portland and the Lakers, but Utah, to me, if they're healthy, and Derek Favors just looked fantastic.
Well, I was just about to say that. I wanted you to finish your thought, but is it me or is like that like the under the radar offensive or under the radar acquisition of the offseason? Because he is just a double. And what name? Give me a team right now that doesn't want a double guy who's going to be able to give you 16 points and 10 boards a game.
And he'll come off the bench and be happy and do the hard work, or he can start if there's a situation, and he just doesn't care. He's 100% team first. And when I spoke to, I have a very good friend in their front office, and we were talking about off-season moves, and he said, well, I'm not blowing our own horn, but no one's talking about Derek Favors, and that was the best move of any team, you know. And when you and I agree with him. And again, it's not somebody who just wants to make himself. He's not that kind of guy at all. But when you look at a team that was as good as they were, so the chemistry is there. And Derek Favors is very familiar with Utah. So you made a move for a guy who's going to do nothing but complement your chemistry and your talent. And you didn't blow up. You don't have, all the other teams save Portland really with Covington. Most of the teams in the West made a lot of moves. There was a lot of shakeup. The Lakers certainly did. Clippers shake up their coaching staff. There's major changes going on. But the Jazz, who looked like title worthy team when healthy last year, didn't do that. They just kept their group together. They let them grow together and keep that chemistry going. And that's something that in a shortened season can really help. I mean, big time.
And Portland did not seem engaged at all last night in being there.
No, it didn't look like. Is this still preseason? Wait, is it? Oh, this one counts.
Some other quick observations from what I saw for the first two nights of the NBA. One of the things I looked at opening night, that Clippers-Lakers game. I obviously you knew it wasn't going to be a 20-something point lead for the Clippers all night. Like I saw the minute they went up big, I'm like, the Lakers are coming back, but yeah. I looked at the Lakers, something that you just said, they did a roster overhaul. They looked very like, I didn't. Hello, my name is with some of the new players on that team, because LeBron didn't even realize there was no chemistry with the Lakers whatsoever.
Nope.
I didn't sense even when they climbed back into the game. I never sensed that the Lakers were going to come back and win that game. I felt that the Clippers took an early lead. I feel that Clippers roster, and I listened to what Reggie Miller and Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley and Shaq and Ernie Johnson and everybody on that TNT crew said about the Clippers. And they're 100% right. The Clippers have to come out this season with a chip on their shoulder, like they had something taken away from them last year. They have to put up or shut up and say, we are a title contender.
They did have something taken away from them last year. They took it away from themselves.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. They need to come out and show that this is them. That they're not that, and that's what they need to come out as. Yeah. The Lakers and Clipper game, that's a major observation I made. I felt like the Lakers really didn't have any chemistry. And also, did you get to watch the ring ceremony at all?
No.
Okay. I was not to keep beating on this drum, but my fiance kept on mentioning to me, how come they're not saying anything about Kobe? And I said to her, I think they want to leave well enough alone.
That's I can imagine the conversation that was had. I think you have to say if it's me, we won this for Kobe. Last year they had to win it for Kobe. They had to win the championship. It was the only worthy tribute.
Right.
Words are great. You can say all kinds of things, and people did. Kobe was so much to the NBA besides a player for the Lakers. But I think I can understand not doing it. I can understand, okay, let's leave that pain in the past. But at the same time, you won it for Kobe. They did that. So
yeah. So why not just put it out there one last time and just say this was for Kobe and then move on? You know what I mean?
Spotlight on jersey. and
Yeah. And some of the other observations, I think I have to start looking at Brad Stevens and wondering if he's really the right coach for the NBA for this particular Celtics team. When Brad Stevens first came into the league, he was coaching players that were man, I'm trying to say this in the right way, but they were young enough to be because he was a great coach in college, old enough to be the same kids he was coaching in college.
yep.
Now you're starting to have veterans in there that may not want to go into the same type of college system that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart bought into.
Yeah.
So I honestly have to start wondering. They had a nice win last night. I think that they're going to be going deep into the playoffs, but I think that lack of knowledge from a coaching standpoint is what's going to hold them back from getting to the finals. They showed all his shortcomings, their team's shortcomings over the last 3 or 4 years of being short of coming to the finals.
Well, that's why they added Evan Turner for that. Why is Evan Turner a coach now? Oh, I don't know.
Well, but there's how you just look at a team and the way they're playing and what they're doing, and you just sort of wonder what are they doing? Like the Atlanta Hawks have made it clear what they want to do. They want to compete to win, so they put a group of talent together. And I'm sure, look, if I'm a GM and I'm an owner, I'm not going to ask my star player Trae Young what he wants there because he's 20-something years old and he's still a baby in this game.
That's
so
right.
You're not asking.
Don't ask the player who they need on their roster.
Yeah, I'm sure the coach, the general manager, and the owner all got together and said, "Let's assemble a team." And it's gonna take a little while for that Atlanta team to get there. And it's funny, we were just talking about the top teams in the East. We really didn't even jump into Atlanta, but
yeah,
the simple fact of the matter is the thing with Boston sort of scares me a little bit. That's observation number 2. And then
though, when we were talking about playoff teams in the East, Atlanta's going to take one of those spots because they're going to.
Right.
The offseason they have, they are going to absolutely take one of those spots.
Yeah. And I will tell you that Atlanta, I'll tell you whose spot they're probably going to end up taking. I have a yeah. It's either going to be Toronto or it's going to be it might be Orlando's.
Could be.
It ain't going to be Brooklyn's. I'll tell you that much right now.
Unless somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, and then the other observation I made is I watched a little bit of the Denver game the other night, and man, I got to tell you, the same thing that we just discussed about Orlando. I think same goes with Denver. When do you start saying this core group is not going to work?
It's not. Well, they've hit their ceiling, and they didn't do anything to bust through it during the offseason. They didn't add a piece. Dallas did the same thing. Dallas is going to be very competitive. Luka's going to be my God, that kid is incredible. So much fun to watch. But Josh Jackson is not their third star. You needed a legit player because, Kristaps Porzingis is going to miss 20 or 30 games starting with now. And you need somebody to fill that in. And they'll be very competitive as they were against the Suns in their first game. But it's awfully hard to win without that additional star. I will say this in defense of Brad Stevens, in defense of the Celtics. Last year, they desperately needed front court help, and they didn't get it.
Yeah.
And so during the offseason, the Ainge did get exactly what they need for Boston. And I think Boston could be in the finals based on that move, especially when Walker's healthy and you've got Walker and T. So your points on Brad Stevens are duly noted. And if they don't get to the finals, I mean, they have the talent to be there. So if they don't get there, you have to look at coaching. But recognize a weakness, and they did address it.
Yeah. Well, Bill, we have reached the end of our time together for this Christmas episode. I would like to wish you a very, 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 very Star Wars like Christmas. May the tree be with you. and, and I'd like to wish our audience a big hearty thank you for 2020. We had some great guests. We're gonna start reloading. We're gonna be back in January of 2021. We are going to change the format up a little bit, start doing some more history stuff, do a little bit of current product, and start going bring some great interviews in as well. That only the Hardwood Huddle will be on a little bit more consistently. But stay tuned. January 2, 2021. Bill will be here with a new hat. It's gonna be crazy. I think we need to get you a lifesaver. I think that would be the best thing ever. Every show.
Especially with the Mandalorian cranking things up with Luke at the end there.
Yeah.
On a final note, my favorite thing after that was Mark Hamill's tweet on Saturday morning, which was, "See anything good on TV lately?"
And he was like, "Isn't that the best kept secret ever that he was going to be doing that?"
Oh my God! When Red 5 flew across, I was like, "That was."
You know what the best part about that too, by the way? The best part about it was he was like, "Wow." Yeah. Usually the camera ends 20 pounds in 5 years. Apparently the TV does very well for Mark Hamill. You can't make it up. All right. Follow the Hardwood Huddle at backsportspage.com. Backsportspage.com. Follow the Hardwood Huddle. We're everywhere. Spotify, iTunes, you name it, we're there. And a lot more things. And Bill, our own YouTube channel is a coming.
Woo!
For Bill Ingram, I'm Randy Zelia. We'll see you next time in the huddle.
Merry Christmas, everybody.